Welcome to a critical analysis of sport and gender in the 2018 Winter Olympic Games. Our group consists of Kylie Zalesi, Megan Garcia, Natalie Urbina, and Chris Kim. We are excited to present our findings. Some of the questions we would like you to consider throughout this video includes 1. How do you think the increase of openly gay athletes in the Olympics will affect the LGBTQ sports community? 2. Do you think the media coverage of openly gay athletes in the Olympics will further current ideologies about the LGBTQ community or change them? Why or why not? 3. Do you think activists such as Adam Rippon represent the majority of the LGBTQ community or a small portion of it? Do you think this is helping or hurting the LGBTQ community, and why or why not? Some of the main topics that we will cover are homophobia and heterosexism, cultural theory, structural theory, and media production and representation in sports.
Homophobia is defined as a general fear or intolerance of anyone who isn't clearly classifiable as a heterosexual male or female. Heterosexism is defined as a system of prejudice that both grows out of and supports sexual ethic, producing various forms of discrimination, particularly against gay and lesbian people, that cannot be justified. Gus Kenworthy did an interview for ESPN and came out to the public. He is an Olympic medalist as a free skier and is the face of the X Games. Since he is such a well-known athlete, he has many sponsors and supporters. Coming out to the public is a risky move because there is a lot on the line to potentially lose. Once he came out, he experienced a mixture of support and denial. The denial he faced was caused by homophobia. When he posted a YouTube video, he received hate comments that were driven by discrimination. They made derogatory comments solely targeting his sexual preference. This is the result of homophobia. Another example is in the Twitter tweets he received. It can be observed that these remarks take away respect from those who are gay. Earlier, I mentioned that Gus Kenworthy feared losing his sponsors. This is the effect of heterosexism. Our society supports straight behavior, and going against it could potentially result in lack of equal opportunity. This was also observed in Rhian Portland's women basketball team. Other concepts that tie in with homophobia and heterosexism is the man box. The man box is a set of ideas that give males a set of definitions how a man should carry himself. Being straight is not part of the man box, and not adhering to the rules of the man box may cause other males to deny an individual of their manliness. This causes it to be more difficult for gay males to come out to other males, especially if it is in sports where there are a group of males as your teammate.
In the field of sports, sociological theories are used to study the relationship between the construct of gender and sport. The main theory that is used is cultural theory because sports are rooted in many different cultural practices, and we see culturally rooted gender ideal come through sports. Cultural theory is the processes through which people create, maintain, and change values, norms, ideas, and beliefs as they play and watch sports. Team USA's Adam Rippon made history by becoming the first openly gay athlete in the Winter Olympics to take home the bronze medal for his free skate performance. In the photo presented, alongside Rippon, Canadian Eric Radford also made history by becoming the first openly gay Winter Olympics champion after winning the gold in pairs free skate performance. These achievements came after NBC failed to identify LGBTQ athletes in the same way they highlighted athletes for their gender and ethnic backgrounds. Rippon and Radford were proud of their achievements in representing the gay community. This is one example of athletes going against the norms of society and showing the world that they are athletes just like anyone else and should not be treated any differently. This year, a record number of 14 out athletes are participating in the 2018 Winter Olympics, which is up from the 7 in the 2014 Winter Olympics. Both Rapone and professional skier Gus Kenworthy are representing Team USA as well as the gay community for the first time in the Winter Olympics. In 2015, Kenworthy came out as gay in an interview with ESPN. He said that the reason why he did it in such a public way was to help people that were struggling in the same position that he struggled with for most of his life in the closet. By choosing to be public about their sexuality in the Olympic Games as well as all throughout social media, Rapone and Kenworthy are taking a stand for the LGBTQ community and making it visible that LGBTQ athletes are there ready to compete. Adam Rapone is praised for not fitting into the typical man box. When it comes to professional athletes, he does not project the way that other male athletes do in masculinity. Rapone is not shy about his sexuality and embraces who he is on the international stage. He says that he's gotten messages from kids from all over the country about his story, and it's incredible how such a powerful platform, such as the Olympic Games, has to influence and inspire others. Comments and questions have been asked about Rapone's athletic ability as a gay athlete, in which he responds that it's just like being a straight athlete, just with better eyebrows. Again, while he may not fit into the gender role, it does not degrade his ability as an athlete. Rapone and Kenworthy have done a great job representing the LGBTQ community and fighting against social norms.
Another key concept seen throughout the Winter Olympics is structural theory. Structural theory is a social organization and patterns of relationships that influence opportunities, decisions, and actions in sport. One example of structural theory was the Twitter interactions between Vice President Mike Pence and Olympic figure skater Adam Rapone. Rapone is one of a few Olympic athletes that openly stated that they will not be attending a post-Olympic meeting with the White House. Rapone has not personally been affected by the legislature that Pence has made, but he knows many who have been, and he has decided to be a voice for them. Rapone does not agree with Pence's support and funding for sexual behavior institutions. Pence responds to Rapone's tweet expressing his full support for all U.S. athletes and his disapproval for fake news. This is a structural theory because Adam Rapone is using his current status to be a voice for those who cannot make a difference. This can also be established as an interactionist theory due to the Twitter interactions that Vice President Pence and Rapone share. Another example of structural theory is the establishment of a Pride House in the center of the Olympic Village. This Pride House is identified as a safe place for both LGBTQ athletes as well as their supporters. In 2010, Vancouver had an unofficial Pride House set up, but this year, the Canadian Olympic Committee has officially established a safe space. It is also the very first Pride House in Asia. Not only is this a positive reflection of LGBTQ participation in sports, but it shows that Canada has used its social standing to not only provide the support for their own athletes, but for all Olympic athletes. This example of structural theory shows Canada advocating for the LGBTQ community in sports.
Media production and representation in sports. Sports selected based on entertainment and revenue-generating potential. Adam Rippon and NBC. Adam Rippon was offered a job by NBC to work as a correspondent for the rest of his time in the 2018 Olympics. He postponed the opportunity until the end of the 2018 Olympics so he could remain focused on the game. He would have been working to promote LGBTQ rights through NBC. After they offered him the job, Rippon and NBC received backlash from audiences about the offer. In the Facebook posts attached, the people are blaming the low ratings for this year's Olympics on the increased amount of homosexual participants. Instead of coverage that promotes ideologies persistent with the popular interest, this year's Olympics tried to include more from the LGBTQ community. These posts highlight the topic in our reading that media depends on sports. This is because news gives the most coverage to sports, it's the most widely read section in newspapers, and sports are the most popular weekend program. All these posts claim that because there are more LGBTQ participants in this year's Olympics, NBC is just trying to appeal to a liberal audience and make a stance rather than just broadcasting the games, which is ultimately what is hurting their ratings. NBC and straightwashing. It was pointed out that NBC failed to mention or highlight any LGBTQ athletes in the opening ceremony coverage. Some are also upset about the failed opportunity to mention any gay or lesbian athletes, LGBTQ issues, or community. We can compare this to compulsory heterosexuality, which is assuming that being heterosexual is normal and not acknowledging homosexuality. This is typically seen because most homosexual athletes don't receive the same amount of media attention as heterosexual athletes. The double standard discusses how there is an open recognition of homosexuals in sports, but the media covers an inappropriate acknowledgement of personal life rather than their athletic ability. They are perceived as gay athletes rather than just athletes. For example, Adam Rippon was asked what it was like to be a gay athlete, and he humorously replied, "Exactly what it's like to be a straight athlete. Lots of hard work, but usually done with better eyebrows." Based on this information, you can reflect on the open-ended question, do you think the media coverage of openly gay athletes in the Olympics will further current ideologies about the LGBTQ community or change them, and why?
We appreciate you taking the time to listen to what we have to say. Thank you again from Kylie, Megan, Natalie, and Chris.